Here,
I think I have mic trouble right now.
I hear you fine.
Oh, okay, good. I thought I had mic trouble for a second. I guess not. Welcome back. It's TJ. It's Nick with Scoreboard Addicts podcast. We're back. It's an interesting and busy week of sports right now, and we're running late. I'm sorry. I was out in the world doing some venue lookings at for my upcoming nuptials sometime in the near future. So I was out with the future wife, looking at venues. So apologize for the tardiness on our behalf, but we're going to give you the best show that we can in the 52 minutes 52 minutes that we have left. We're going to go fast. We're going to go furious. We're going to kill it. You're going to have an awesome time. We're going to have an awesome time. We'll laugh. We'll cry. We'll try not to hurl. But yeah, so let's get into it real fast. Tonight marks the beginning of the NFL season with the inaugural Thursday night football. Does it bother you that the football week starts on Thursday now?
It does.
It bothers me.
I'm not gonna lie. It just dude, I don't know, man. You go to work, right? Like on a normal Thursday, most people are going to work. You're coming home, you got work the next day, Friday. It's just like I want that opening game, right? I want to be sitting here with a plate of chicken wings and a cooler full of beers, knowing that, like, oh man, like we have all day for football. Like this is the day. Not like I feel like this is just like a little teaser, you know, like an aperitif, if you will.
An appetizer.
It's just I don't know. Like it doesn't. You walk away a little unsatisfied. Listen, Kansas City versus the Lions. If those two teams are your teams, I mean, in general, if you're an NFL fan, Kansas City opening up Week 1, Super Bowl champions. It's fun. It's a great game. It's going to be entertaining. It just doesn't feel right. Maybe I'm wrong.
You know, I don't have a problem with games on Thursdays. I have a problem with the week starting on Thursday.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like I want that
start on Sunday. The end of the week is Thursday.
I feel like that first week of football, it should be Sunday. Like Sunday. You're going to sit in front of your couch all day. Your wife's going to yell at you for not getting up once, except to get a beer and take a piss.
Yeah, because
you know, that's my Sunday plan for Week 1 of football, and it's like, I mean, that's what I'm doing this Sunday. Essentially, doing absolutely nothing.
I watch this weekend, so I won't be doing that 100%. But the Jets,
you'll be there in spirit. I'll have some beers and wings for you.
Say that again.
I said you'll be there in spirit. I'll eat some beer, eat some wings, and drink some beers in your honor.
I appreciate that. But Monday, the Jets play the Bills on Monday Night Football. First time the Jets have been on Monday Night Football in quite some time. So that's good. But let's get into that. Before we get to the Jets, let's talk a little Jets, a little Giants. You know, the Giants, not the little Giants, but a little Giants football, not to confuse with Ed O'Neill and Rick Moranis greatness. But let's talk about that. The upcoming season, the Jets and Giants kick off this weekend, as do every other team in the NFL, the other 30 teams in the NFL. And Giants play the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. So it's a really big weekend for both the Jets and the Giants, division rivals, primetime games. And we're about to see what the teams got. You know, it's been a long offseason. There's been a lot of chatter, specifically from the Jets, or about the Jets, I should say. I don't feel like the Jets are saying anything over that's crazy. I mean, DJ Reed did say something a little crazy, but let's talk about the Giants. They play the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Let's talk about that team.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to start with a division rivalry, right? It's especially the Dallas. I feel like Dallas fans always talk a big game. They're always hyped up big time going into the season. But I think Giant fans are doing a lot of chirping this year as well. I mean, they made a playoff debut last year, right? Which nobody really expected, but was ecstatic about. And I mean, again, good for them. They played very conservative football, didn't really let Daniel Jones air it out as much. His passing was down, and it worked for them. Saquon Barkley put on a show week after week with the legs, and it worked out for him. But I don't know. This year, it's the Giant fans' hype, I think, is a little much. You know, not saying that the Dallas fans' hype, going into this week, Dallas is always hyped up, but I think Dallas has a better shot this year than the Giants. I feel like if they let Daniel Jones make that $30-something million he's going to get this year, if they let him try to earn it with the arm, it's going to burn them and bite them in the ass. And you're going to see exactly why Daniel Jones was questionable to ever come back to this team before last year. And that's not just us as Jet fans. That's Giant fans in general. Everybody was saying it. Most Giant fans didn't want Daniel Jones back.
It was a 50-50.
Yeah, because, I mean, just like his throws. It's dude, you never know when the INT is coming. And luckily for him, it was down last year and it worked out well for them. But who knows if that's going to be their game plan and they're not going to go to the air as much, just like last year, teams are going to figure them out. And it's a passing league. And you see the teams that are making the runs through the playoffs, they're headed up by Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen and what's his name? Jalen Hurts. Like, it's a passing league. And you got to air the ball out.
So here's my concerns with the Giants. Right now, if you look at their depth chart, right? Their first wide receiver is Isaiah Hodgins.
Mm-hmm.
And their second wide receiver is Paris Campbell. Their backups are Jalen Hyatt, which I've heard a lot about him. I don't know how important that is. And Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, they do have Darren Waller. And they do have Darius Slayton as slot receivers and tight ends. And they also still have Sterling Shepard. But do any of those names, other than Waller, do they move the needle for you at all?
As far as, like, if I'm sitting there and it's like, these are the receivers I'm looking at and I'm about to build a fantasy team and you want me to be excited and think I'm going into the season putting up points? Not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I'm not saying that they're bad receivers. They're definitely not bad receivers, but they're not studs,
game breakers
by any means.
They're not.
No,
they're not making their quarterback better.
No, legitimately, the guy who essentially makes the offense better by being there is Saquon Barkley, and you're investing a lot in that. You're investing a lot in a pair of legs and somebody that's already been hurt.
And Waller does as well. Don't get me wrong. Darren Waller is a very great tight end. He's outstanding at what he does. He's
not going to have the effect, at least if they go with the same type of offensive style that they went last year. He's not going to be the make or break winning games. It's going to be Saquon.
I concur, but also at the same time is you have to bear in mind that because you have no other threats over the top at the wide receiver position other than Waller, who's a tight end. You have to ask yourself, like, does that move the needle enough? Again, it's one of those situations like you go to the Dolphins, right? The reason that Tyreek Hill is so important is because on top of being Tyreek Hill, he's also opening up opportunities for Jalen Waddle. Like, that's just how it works. Yeah. Waddle's going to get more opportunities because there's double teams on Hill. Generally speaking, you're not double teaming a tight end.
Again, Waddle has a lot more talent than anybody you just listed on the Giants roster.
Absolutely. So it's not even like, you get a little bit cause of an effect, right? Like, because they're double teaming Garrett Wilson, that will open more opportunities for McCole Hardman.
Right.
Conceivably, that's the potential part. And McCole Hardman is a very good receiver or a good receiver, but Garrett Wilson's a great receiver at this point. You know what I mean? The Giants don't have that great receiver that really warrants double coverage that's going to free up Waller. So Waller is going to be double covered, arguably, right? They're going to put a spy on Saquon, who may or may not run the ball. He might be in a pass protection, depending on what their offense is running. And they still just have mediocre receivers going out there against the fucking Eagles, who have as good a secondary as anybody.
I was going to say, I'm glad you brought up the Eagles because that is the one thing looking at the Giants' schedule that I think has the potential to help them as far as trying to get in the playoffs and putting a couple wins together and putting themselves in a position to maybe get a wild card spot into the playoffs. Or it could just bury their hopes of getting to the playoffs because you're facing off against Philadelphia twice in 3 weeks. The first time being on Christmas Day, December 25th. And then you have to face them once again with just what you're playing Philadelphia, the Rams, and Philadelphia again to end the season on January 7th. Like, so if in those 3 weeks you need 2 wins, if you're the Giants and you need 2 wins to get in, I don't like your chances looking at it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the 2 teams to beat in that division are the Cowboys and the Eagles. And honestly, I kind of feel like the Cowboys don't really warrant that. But just looking at their roster, if Dak Prescott plays up to par what he's done previously, right? Based on the wide receivers that they have, based on their defense and the secondary that they have, the pass rush that they have with Parsons, I just feel like that they move the needle a little bit more than the Giants do, at least for me.
Well, I mean, and listen, the Giants and the Cowboys play each other very hard, and they play. I think both teams usually play above expectation and above talent level because it's a deep seated rivalry of hate, and the other wants to win, and everybody hates Jerry Jones. I mean, let's face it. But I can see
Jerry Jones never did nothing to me.
Well, he's got one fan then. That's not a Dallas
I didn't say I was his fan. I just don't hate the guy. I'm not wasting energy hating guys that I don't know.
Fair enough. But I can see, the Giants winning at home and then, losing when they go on the road to Dallas. So I could see a 1-1 split. That wouldn't surprise anybody, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. So moving forward to the Monday night football, the Jets versus the Bills. Good news for your cousin Brian. I do not foresee a Josh Allen injury this season.
I'm just glad we didn't. That would have been better if we were playing golf with him, so you could alert him to that news because he was very animated last year when you predicted Josh Allen not making it through the season without an injury.
Well, I said he would get injured. The Jets would beat them one game, and he would get injured in the game. I told him that, and he was just like, "But why are you wishing injury on the guy?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm not wishing injury on him at all. I'm telling you how I feel, and I feel like he's going to get injured playing against the Jets." I always get feelings like that. I don't know why it is, but like we were talking about it this morning. I'm sorry, Giants fans. I have like an itchy feeling that Daniel Jones is going to get an injury this year. It's not like a guarantee. It's not as strong as the feeling I got last year with Josh Allen. It's just kind of like in the back of my mind. If you're asking whether or not I get those feelings about Jets, if I ever got that feeling, I would never say it out loud.
Yeah, dude. Listen, I mean,
because I would never put that in the ether. And but why you got to do it to my team? Because your team's not my team, dude. I'm sorry, I don't have to tell you. But I think Daniel Jones is going to get injured this year. I have a little bit of in the back of my mind.
And I can vouch for you. Like Nick has that quirk where if he feels it, it usually comes true. But
only
it could be a curse or right. It could be a curse. It could be a blessing. You never know. But like other people have it worse, right? Like I know a buddy of ours has that weird quirk. He works at Stan Mikita's Donuts in Aurora, and the voices in his head just keep coming to him. Why do they come to me to die? Why do they come to me to die? Glenn definitely has it worse.
The Glenn has it worse for sure. The Sugar Pucks are excellent.
2 people got that reference.
Sugar Pucks are excellent, though. But Jets play the Bills on Monday Night Football. And what are your thoughts about that? Jets kick off, top 5 defense, hands down. I don't care what anybody says. They're a top 5 defense. I real quick. You're the head coach, right? For 5 seconds, you lose all your hair and your beard, and you're Robert Saleh, all right? You win the kickoff. Do you take the ball or you defer?
I take the ball.
Really?
I take the ball. I walk up to Aaron Rodgers and I say, stuff this in the fucking end zone. That's how we're starting it this year.
Wow.
Stuff it in the end zone. Get it there.
I defer. I defer. I let Josh
get the
Allen
statistics, but I get the statistics behind that, and I understand why.
I get Josh Allen on the field, and I let him know that he's about to play us twice this year. And that first drive is how it's going to be for the whole year, and we're going to terrorize him. That defensive line is going to be so far up his ass, they'll be able to count the amount of teeth that's in his mouth and let him know, like, this is how it's going to be for the rest of this game and the next game you play us too. So I hope you're ready for it.
Me and you are on the same wavelength. It's just we're going on different sides of the ball. Like, and I understand that completely. But me with the offensive side of it, I mean, you're sitting there with Aaron Rodgers, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the last 3 decades to grace the field, right?
Absolutely.
Super Bowl winner. He knows what he's doing, and he has a plethora of young talent that's hungry for the ball, that didn't get the ball last year because of our quarterback struggles, right?
Yeah.
Time to fucking flex, right? It's just time to you go out there and you score TD. First drive, you bring it right down the field. And that's the one thing with Aaron Rodgers, we know he has the arm, we know he has the talent, but the eyes, you know what I mean? He's going to find the open receiver. And last year, how many games did we watch last year where there was nothing but open receivers and the ball's just not even going to their side of the fucking field?
Right.
So, but I'm with you, dude. I mean, our defense, absolutely. I could see that being a swing right there and just a momentum changer.
So the thing with the defense is the other reason I would throw the defense out there first is kind of simple. The offense struggled last year. Everybody's anticipating watching Aaron Rodgers, and I think Jets fans have unrealistic expectations for what is going to happen. When I say unrealistic, I do not mean that I'm not saying like they anticipate MVP Aaron Rodgers, because I don't feel that that's unrealistic. I think that they have expectations of we will never go a drive without scoring again.
That's just silly.
He won't throw an interception, but that's how it is, right? Like, we watched Zach Wilson struggle last year, and when he came back and he's back at home, there's nobody open, and he throws one in the ground, and fans are booing him because the expectation is that I guess they were anticipating him not having anyway, regardless of the fact that it's not his fault. He's running out of time in the pocket. There's nobody open, and he doesn't want to force the ball. It was a smart decision, and the fans are still going to boo him because they're like, well, you got to make something happen. And I feel like we're at that level now where we're so excited. It's like Hideki Matsui. I always say, everybody's like, Hideki Matsui was a good Yankee. I always sit there and say, well, he owes me 25 home runs a season because he was advertised as a 55 home run a year kind of guy, and he only ever hit 30. So he owes me 25 home runs a season. That's an unrealistic expectation. He went from quadruple A to the major leagues, and I'm expecting him to hit 55 home runs.
Right.
It's unrealistic. It's not, and he didn't have a bad career by any stretch of the imagination. No. But my expectation of him was unrealistic based on the hype. So I think our defense can 100% hold up to that expectation because the defense is a unit, not one singular person. You're not sitting there looking at anybody on that defense other than maybe Sauce Gardner and saying that person has to perform at X level. You know what I mean? Like, you're not sitting there going, Jermaine Johnson better get a fucking sack on this drive right now. You're not thinking that, but you're definitely watching Aaron Rodgers going, he better score a touchdown on this drive.
Not even that. I honestly, unrealistic expectations, yes. Back down to earth, brutally molested Jet fan, excuse me, over my lifetime. My expectation, just move the chains. Consistently move the chains and put yourself in a position to score.
I think if he doesn't score in that opening drive, it's a letdown. And it's a lot harder to score than it is to stop somebody and hold them to a field goal or hold them to a
that's
punt.
Fair. I mean, obviously, that's statistically,
so
that's
I just feel like
God-given truth.
I feel like you just make the crowd shut down a little. Like, all right, we're going to put the defense on there. Maybe a 3-and-out, maybe one first down and then a 3-and-out. And then the crowd is kind of settled. Then you put Rodgers out there. So if he doesn't score, at least you're not sitting there going, oh, God, I hope the defense can hold today. Because that's what's going to happen. If he goes out there and he bolos that first fucking drive down the field, the fans are going to sit there and be like, fuck, we thought we were going to score every drive. You know there's fans out there that think that we're going to score on every single offensive possession.
Yeah, I agree.
They think that Dalvin and that Breece are going to break open 20-yard carries every single time. Aaron's going to throw for 20-yard passes for touchdowns every single pass. That they think that freaking Garrett's going to be open every single play, that Uzama and Conklin are going to catch every check down. They're so excited for it. That's what they're ready for. And it doesn't work out that way. It just doesn't. We're right now we're watching the Giants, the Lions in Detroit. And I saw Goff drop back to throw a pass, and they said, oh, he hasn't thrown an interception in 300 passes or something, 600 passes. I was like, watch him throw an interception right now.
Did you not see my tweet?
I did. That's where I saw that.
I was about to say, like, you jinxy sons of bitches. Like, why would you put that in the universe? Especially coming from a non-athlete, like a non-athletic person. Like, it's like, if anybody, if Terrell Owens is sitting on that dais of NFL Network, like, he hasn't thrown it, he'd be like, shh.
Hey, yeah, don't say that.
I don't fuck with him.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, why would you put it out there? It's just you're inviting the bad juju in 100%. But speaking about expectations and the New York Jets, looking at the schedule, and I don't want to do like a rundown every game, win, loss, whatever, but you have Buffalo, then we're at Dallas, New England, Kansas City, Denver, Philadelphia, and then we have a bye. So in those first 6 games, realistically, my expectations are, I think we should be 3-3.
So
I think if we're being, that's my expectations on the team succeeding. That's where I think we need to be through the first 6 weeks, including the bye 7 weeks. I think that if you manage to get a win off of Buffalo, you win, let's say, against Dallas and Denver, or vice versa. Maybe you lose to Buffalo, but you win against Dallas, England, and Denver. You're 3-3.
I'll tell you what's acceptable to me, and I'll tell you what I expect. All right? Okay. 3-3 is acceptable. I think it's completely acceptable. 3-3 is acceptable. I expect 4-2. Because we beat Buffalo last year with the quarterback situation that we had. Our improvements are better than what anything that Buffalo improved upon. Which honestly really isn't all that much. Okay. That's how I feel about that. Dallas, I don't think Dallas has beaten us in like 15 years. Now, granted, we don't play Dallas all too often, but like the last 4 times we beat Dallas, we weren't supposed to, and we still beat Dallas.
Yeah.
I remember watching us kick that game-winning field goal with Mark Sanchez as a quarterback in Dallas. Yep. I remember. I think it was on Monday Night Football. All right. So I think Dallas loses to us too. New England, they haven't done a goddamn thing to help their franchise this year. I don't know what the hell they're rolling out there, but none of it is impressive. I am not impressed by anything. And I saw somebody put out there that Ramondre Stevenson is the best running back in the AFC East. Whoever put that out there is fucking high, because the Jets have Dalvin fucking Cook, okay, and Breece Hall. Breece Hall would have been the offensive rookie of the year last year had he not got injured. Now, if you want to sit there and say, hey, listen, he's got injury concerns, okay. We still have Dalvin Cook, who's a Pro Bowl running back, who's ran for over 1,000 yards last year and caught for like another 200, 300 yards. I like, stop it. Like, whoever the best running back in the AFC East is, they don't play in New England. I promise you. All right. So I anticipate being 3-0 to start the year. I really do. Kansas City is a toss up. Depending on how it goes, you could win, you could lose. The fact that I think the Jets, I think, not that the expectation is to lose, but they're going to have to earn a win against KC. Listen, they're the defending.
They're going to have to really champions.
Earn it. You got to prove it. All right. You got to put up your dukes, and you got to earn it. I fully expect to beat Denver.
Yes. I
am watching what's going on in Denver right now, just based off what's going on between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, and it does not look good.
Fucking bizarre.
Hey, Skip, I'm sorry, but based on the comments I just saw recently where Sean Payton was telling Russell Wilson, like, I know you have your little foundation. Fuck your foundation. This shit doesn't matter. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying is clearly it does matter to Russell. And I don't know how that's going to go, but it doesn't sound good. It just doesn't. And then the Eagles are the defending NFC champions. They have a great team. I really enjoy. I hate people from Philly, but what the Eagles are doing is pretty impressive. I think their quarterback situation has solidified. They've got great receivers over there. Their defense is top notch. They got a top 5 defense too. The
Jets right now, in the first 6 weeks, they're going against the top 3 quarterbacks in the league.
They're going against the defending NFC and AFC champions.
Correct.
That's fucking crazy.
And Josh Allen, who, I mean, he could be, he probably should have been. There's chance they every little bit of it they could have earned an AFC championship.
But I think the Jets should be 4-2. There's no reason not to be against those teams.
I mean,
but
I'm being a little conservative, but I think I'm satisfied with 3-3.
I'm satisfied, but I think they should be 4-2. I could see them losing to New England because why the fuck not, right? It's not like we should ever beat them, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. But I mean, and then after that, not to run down the whole thing, but if you look at the schedule, I don't see there's any reason why the Jets cannot be 11-6.
I agree. When you have to play against the Raiders and the Falcons and the Texans and the Commanders and the Browns, like
Houston.
People sit there and say,
"Come on,"
and people sit there and say, "Well, the Browns aren't bad. They have Deshaun Watson. The Browns ain't good neither."
No.
Wow. You know what just hit me? Yeah, I get my feelings. Elijah Moore is getting injured this year.
Wow. Really?
He's going to miss. I want to say he's going to miss significant time with an injury after week 6. So bookmark this. If that happens,
okay.
Then just pray that whoever sees this, if they bookmark it, if that happens, pray you never encounter me and I don't get inklings about you and your injuries.
Dude, legitimately, like the last 7 games of the year, New England, Atlanta, Houston, Miami, Washington, Cleveland, New England. Like we said, New England can they could throw a wrench in the mix, right?
Right.
But I think the toughest game in there is probably Washington, maybe Miami.
Miami. Washington still doesn't have a quarterback. It's tough to say whether or not Miami's quarterback will be playing at that point, and Dolphin fans, be happy. I have no.
There's a lot of question marks.
I have no inklings about Tua getting injured this year. I'm not saying he won't, but I don't have that feeling.
Honestly, legitimately, Tua needs to avoid injury at all costs because that dude is probably one pop away from.
I saw something crazy, and they said that Kenny Pickett had received 2 concussions over the course of the recent history, and nobody's talking about him being washed or being bad. Like they're talking about Tua, and they're just hating on Tua because of Miami or whatever. They're hating on Tua for whatever BS reason they can make up, right? And then I posted an article that said Tua admits that he considered retirement. I said Kenny Pickett didn't consider retirement. So if you're going to sit there and say like, oh, well, how come Kenny Pickett's not getting the same bad press that Tua's getting? They have the same amount of concussions. Well, one, we didn't see Kenny Pickett's concussion make his hands freak the fuck out, make him lose motor function in his body. That's the first thing. And the second thing is there's no article written about Kenny Pickett considering retirement. If Tua gets injured this year, God forbid Tua gets another concussion this year, he's probably going to retire from the NFL. He's gonna do an Andrew Luck and say my health is more important than his paycheck. I've already made my millions. I can walk away from this game feeling quite all right about it, and be okay about it. And you can't blame the guy. Do you want to end up like Junior Seau? Do you want to end up like these other guys that have CTE and they've got swollen brains that kill their families or kill themselves and like put their families through that shit? No. So like, I'm not saying Tua's going to get injured, but I am saying that like, the conversation about whether or not Tua's career is going to continue is warranted when the guy considers retirement in his 3rd year in the NFL. He's considering retirement already due to injury. It's warranted to ask whether or not this is for him.
Especially at this level and given the injury and the CTE stuff, at what point do you have to just admit to yourself it's not worth my life? Well,
and it's not even just like the amount of injuries, because again, we've said that Kenny Pickett has had the same amount of injuries as Tua Tagovailoa, which I don't know where that imaginary N comes from, but apparently he's got an imaginary N in his name where that apostrophe is. And it's Tango Vailoa. But point being is that, again, Kenny Pickett never considered retirement. He never sat there, looked around and said, maybe I should hang him up because this shit is getting dangerous.
I think it's more the fact that Tua was cleared when he clearly wasn't.
Yeah, honestly, I don't understand how he works for the Dolphins like that. Like, I get it. Players always want to play, But I also, as a player, you kind of got to expect your manager, your owner, whomever it is, to actually give a shit about you as a human being.
We're not
in
doctors.
your nature to want to play.
Like, we're not doctors. Like, I may play
Well,
one on TV,
should care and should be like, good enough to decide.
Well, not even that. It's the fact that everybody's standing there looking at him going, he shouldn't be on the fucking field right now.
We saw what happened. We saw him fall.
And given the CTE like halo over the NFL, because it is a fucking it's a double black eye for the NFL, and they want it to go away and they want everybody to forget about it, but it's horrible, dude. And the way CTE has affected so many ex-NFL players is just embarrassing for the NFL that it took so long for them to admit it and acknowledge it. And it's sad for those players that went through it, just trying to provide for their families and play the game that they love. But I think we can both agree that, like, Tua being on the field would be like them picking up Joe Theismann and be like, hey, fucking walk it off, Joe.
Great point. That's a great point. You're absolutely correct about that.
Guess what? Your fucking leg can heal a lot faster than your brain.
Absolutely right. Well, and not only that, listen, a broken leg, you limp for the rest of your life. A broken brain, your wife's going to
be stuck in a chair the rest of your life.
100%. But I digress about Tua Tagovailoa.
I wish nothing but the best for him, and honestly, I hope he has a great season. Obviously not against the Jets, season. But I hope he avoids injury at all costs.
I'll tell you right now, I hope he has an awful season. I just hope it's healthy. I'll be honest with you. I hope he has an awful season, and the Dolphins are looking for a new quarterback come next season, but they don't have a bad enough pick to warrant getting somebody like Caleb Williams. That's what I hope for.
My brother-in-law's a Dolphin fan, so I try to be nice.
As we're watching this game, the Lions are driving right now. Jahmyr Gibbs has talked a lot about being a big back in the league and setting some records, and we'll see if he's got that Barry Sanders in him. Jared Goff looks good so far. Reynolds catching some passes, moving forward, moving the chains. And that's what they're past the 50 right now, and they're on the Chiefs side of the field. And the Chiefs defense looking a little bit suspect against this Lions offense, which is good for the Jets because the Lions kind of run a very similar offense to what the Jets got going with the running game. But we move forward. What do you want to talk about next, T? You wrote the agenda for tonight. What do you want to talk about?
You want to touch on the Rangers real quick?
Let's do it. I'm ready. Hold on.
Quick subject.
Hold on, real quick.
So, ex-Rangers, before we get to the Rangers news, Carl Swaglin Hagelin retires. An eye injury, and he ends up hanging up his skates. He was a great Ranger, fun to watch, explosive speed, and wish him nothing but the best. It sucks that eye injury takes him out of the mix.
That's first of all, that's awful. And you know, you when you hear eye injury, you hope that, hey, listen, I hope everything works out in his favor. Like, you don't want permanent damage. There's things that most people never want to go without: your hearing and your sight. Like that's very scary to think about. You know, we all know that as we get older, our bodies deteriorate. You would hope at some point, you know, people get diabetes runs in my family. So I fully anticipate getting diabetes at some point. I hope that I never end up paralyzed. I hope that I never lose my sight, and I hope I never lose my hearing. If it degrades a little bit, okay, people need glasses, people got a hearing aid or whatever. But if you go deaf or you go blind, especially blind, that's scary. That's like, I hope everything works out for Carl Hagelin, and his eye injury is something that is precautionary. And he's just like, listen, I'm not going to push it so that I don't go fully blind and whatever.
Right. But nothing but the best for him. He was an awesome Ranger. And then Michael Del Zotto, 33 years old, 13 years in the league. He also retires.
Wow.
Yeah, I kind of think that one was more skill-based. I think he was kind of petering off and just decided to, it is what it is, dude. And 13 years in the NHL is nothing to scoff at. So,
happy trails. Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Wish him nothing but the best. But New York Rangers, dude, we talked about last week the Lafreniere signing, which was great. Happy he's back on the team. A recent thing came out saying that the Rangers right now, as far as their minor league system, have the number 2 guy, as far as NHL goes, number 2 prospect and being Brennan Othman. And I was talking about this with my buddy Keith, and it's kind of like the Rangers have to move him up this year, but where are they fitting him? You're not going to relegate him to the 3rd or 4th line because that's not where he belongs, and that's not where he's going to excel or learn the game. You cannot put somebody it's their first official year in the league to run the 3rd line or be the guy that everybody's looking at, because you're essentially reserving him to, hey, just go out there and kill some time. That his skill set, that's not where he's going to excel. And I don't know, depending on how my thing was, depending on how Chris Kreider does, Chris Kreider might be a 3rd line guy. Last year was a big fall from grace from the previous season. I understand that you're not going to get 50 goals out of a Chris Kreider every year, but the tenacity was way down. I think the tenacity for the whole team was way down. And even when he was he lived in front of the net 2 seasons ago when he was racking up all those goals, lived in front of the net. And then all of a sudden he's playing the short side post and he's just trying to get deflections from there.
Fight for the
you got to pay the garbage, cash the check, man. You got to pay it with your body. Yeah, you're going to take some hits. You're going to take some cross checks. You're going to get knocked around a little bit. But guess what? In front of the net, especially if the puck's in the air, his deflection skills are amazing. I honestly think, not that I want to see Chris Kreider have a meh year, but if Chris Kreider gets relegated to the 3rd line and you bring up Ottman, I think that's the move. You can't let this kid just sit down in the minors and not develop, because there's only one way to learn how to play the NHL speed in which they play, and that's to play in the NHL.
Yeah, absolutely right. Is that anything else Rangers related? Because you said minors and it just triggered something in my brain.
The only other thing I have is obviously you got the Patrick Kane debate. He had hip surgery. He's donezo for a good portion of this season. Yeah. And every report is essentially that he's banking on just a quick recovery. And even that, you're talking about 2 months into the season at bare minimum. So he was asked, and he even said, or I believe it was through his agent, that even if somebody threw him $7 million for a 2-year contract right now, he probably wouldn't take it, because what he's really looking forward to is kind of playing the trade deadline and seeing what team is in a potential Stanley Cup run situation where he can then jump on, use his skill set, and pile on some points and help a team, kind of just get over that hump and become a Stanley Cup team. So can I see him being back with the Rangers? Yeah, I think there's plenty of situations that would call for him coming back to the Rangers. Is it likely? Most likely not, because, again, he's probably looking at $3 million for a season, and I don't think the Rangers are going to have it. Even at the end of that trade deadline, I don't see where they make enough cap space to accommodate.
So my question for you is, what if he's just like, I've made my money. I just want to win a Stanley Cup with the Rangers, and takes the veteran minimum?
I don't think he would take the minimum. I think the best case you get is he works out some kind of deal that doesn't affect the cap, pull some bullshit Stamkos nonsense that fucking Tampa Bay got away with, which is ridiculous. Let the Rangers fucking do it. I'm sure Chris Drury's a pretty smart guy. I'm sure he can.
I swear to God, if the Rangers did it, Gary Bettman would put the kibosh on it immediately.
Oh, 100%. Like,
they're not gonna let New York get away with it.
I think every New Yorker would get fined by the NHL. It's like all of a sudden everybody just gets a $50 fine in the mail from the NHL because Gary Bettman's a douche.
I agree. But moving on.
I could see if the Rangers, to that point, I could see if the Rangers were dominating and making a real run, that Patrick Kane might take some kind of manipulation of cap space and funding to be like, yo, yeah, let's fucking do it. Yeah. Dude, they Garden, his first game in a New York Rangers sweater, first game, an hour before puck drop, Patrick Kane jerseys were sold out in MSG. So he's wanted here, and I think he liked being here.
I just can't. I just want to say I can't wait to get down to the Garden with you this season. See Jason.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully Rook can make an appearance too if he's not too busy. And we can go and enjoy the Rangers down at the Garden, and I can keep the streak going, baby.
Hell yeah.
That's another thing about, like, there's two things about Nick. One, Nick gets weird feelings about injuries. Don't know why. And I'll call it in spring training that somebody on the Mets is getting injured during the year. I did it for the Mets like entire starting rotation the year after they went to the World Series. I was like, 3 of these 5 guys will be on the injured list from May or from April until fucking the All-Star break. And I was right. And my old boss was so mad at me. And I was like, he's like, you put that on them. I'm like, no, I didn't. I just kind of got a feeling like DeGrom, Wheeler, and freaking it wasn't Syndergaard. I can't remember who the guy was. But it was DeGrom, Wheeler, and Harvey were going to be out until the All-Star break.
Yes.
And DeGrom, Wheeler, and Harvey all went down and missed significant time that year. And he was just like, son of a bitch, why did you do that? I'm like, I didn't do anything. Like, and I also don't watch the Rangers lose ever. That is not
live.
That is not, well, I don't watch it like in person. I see it through telecommunications. Yes, all the time. I watch a lot of Rangers games, but I've never been to the Garden and witnessed a loss by the New York Rangers. Never happened.
Honestly, I don't want to be there if that ever happened. Like, I don't want to be that scares me going to games with you, because if I'm there and they lose, you're going to look at me and be like, it's fucking clearly you, dude. I'm not going to be able to live with it.
My shit is so strong. I went to Nashville and they won in Nashville. I know you're thinking the Predators suck, but this was like 6 years ago. No,
I mean, regardless, when your mojo can carry state lines, that's impressive.
It was so strong. Like, you can't buy Predators tickets in fucking Nashville unless you're from Tennessee. So we actually got tickets from somebody that we know that lives there.
Nice.
And that's how we got tickets. I think they only do it when the big teams from out of town are there. But we digress. We move forward. Talking about the minors, let's talk about the minors. We got to talk about the minors because they're calling them the Yankee Utes. Obviously a reference to my cousin Vinny, the 2 Utes. What's a Ute? The Utes. Being called up, and right now they're playing most days. Right now, Austin Wells is not playing. However, Jason Dominguez, the Martian, highly touted, 2nd overall prospect rated in the Yankees system, came up to the Yankees on Friday of last week along with Austin Wells. They both recorded their first major league hits off of Justin Verlander, a name brand, granted, at the end of his career, but still firing bullets, doing what he does because he's Justin Verlander, Hall of Famer, surefire Hall of Famer with a loser for a brother. Kind of like Patrick Mahomes.
Dude, it means something. Yeah, that's very true, but it still means something. Let me put it this way. If Nolan Ryan all of a sudden was just like in somebody's backyard and you're like, yo, Nolan, this is my only shot, like throw a couple in there, and then you ripped one off him. I don't care if you put it through the fucking neighbor's house and you had to pay for damages. I'm talking about that shit forever.
For the
like,
rest
dude, I took Nolan Ryan
now,
deep.
If by the grace of weirdness, I got that bad against Nolan Ryan and I got a hit, I'd be telling my great-grandchildren about how I got a hit off of Nolan Ryan. They'd be like, oh, how old was he, great-grandpa? I'd be like, it doesn't fucking matter. Dude, it doesn't matter. He struck out 7,000 people. I was not one of them.
You can, I can guarantee if Nolan Ryan was walking through my neighborhood and just playing with a bunch of kids, and I don't care how fucking weird it looked, I would run out there with my bat and like Nolan, throw a couple in and really like fucking mean it. And I put one in play off of him. That shit's going on my gravestone. You know, beloved husband of Carissa, father of Alex, hit Nolan Ryan.
I'll tell you right now, if that was me, then Nolan Ryan's what, in his 60s by now? He's got to be, right? He's got to be in his 60s right now. If not
approaching 70, I want to say.
Nolan Ryan can still throw some heat. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. And they're like, oh, well, what could he possibly throw? Nolan Ryan probably still throws 80 miles an hour. Probably. And he's 76.
And I bet you that like decrease in speed has added a little funky movement to that shit.
Guaranteed. But point being is that if I got any type of at bat and made contact and fucking got a hit off Nolan Ryan, even at 76 years old, I'd be like, give me the ball. It would be like that scene in Summer Catch when Billy Brubaker finally gets a hit. And they're like, give me the ball. And he takes it out of the first baseman's glove, like, I got a fucking hit. And they're like, what's the big deal? This is just a summer league. Doesn't matter, bro.
I don't want to derail the Yankees talk. However, we didn't get to talk about this. It happened while I was away. Did you see that shitty piece of shit move? And this is like, I forever have a horrible opinion about Pete Alonso now. He fucking throws that kid's first major league hit in the stands.
I did. And you know what? I'm going to sit here and say and give Pete the benefit of doubt. He didn't know it was his first hit.
Dude, he literally, the dugout's going like this to him, and he turns and goes and throws it in the fucking stands. He shook the fucking ball at the dugout and threw it in the stands. What does this mean when the opposing team is all doing this to you? When you're holding a baseball?
If you're not really paying attention to it, I could see them being like, give us the ball, and him being like, nah, I got it. It's cool. And throwing it into the seats.
Nah, honestly, dude, the only excuse you have is like if he came out and was like, yo, like I'm actually mentally handicapped. I'll be like, all right, he gets a pass. Until that's not the case, so fuck him.
The guy got the ball back. Pete Alonso made a public apology and also made a private apology. Listen, shit happens. It's not always, I in my older age, I start to feel that more and more that we're very egocentric as human beings, and we take everything as a personal slight and offense. When more often than not, it's not. It's just that people are ignorant to a lot of things. So I'll give you an example. One time when I was younger and my sister and I still lived in the same house, she accused me of being selfish because I drank all of the juice. At which point I told her, I'm not selfish. Selfish implies that I thought of you and said, fuck you, I'm drinking the juice for myself. You never even crossed my mind as I drank all the juice. I am not selfish. I'm inconsiderate. If you're going to insult me, at least use the right words. And that's most people. When somebody cuts you off in traffic, you think, you motherfucker, you cut me off. That person didn't even realize you were in the world at that moment. They were just trying to get to where they needed to be.
I understand what you're saying, but that's no excuse because either way, it's a me first, fuck you mentality.
It is a me first, but it's not a fuck you. It's a fuck everybody.
No, I agree. And I'm not saying that like you take it as a personal slight, but if that kid doesn't get that ball back, dude, and again,
he got it back. And then
but I'm saying if he didn't get that ball back, right? And I don't know, I don't even remember the kid's fucking name. I'm getting so upset about it, and I don't even know the kid's name. But in all reality, as many minor leaguers come up, the majority of them don't make it. So if that was like that kid's like, maybe he plays a grand total of 25 fucking Major League Baseball games.
That's important.
At least he has that baseball. Dude, it's just such a shitty. I don't know. It's a bad look.
I'm gonna hope that it was an accident.
So do I. I just don't understand him looking over at the dugout and then tossing it into the fucking. Weren't we at a Yankee game when fucking Jobber Chamberlain was doing that to fucking kids in the outfield, and we were like, "Yo, what the fuck is that shit, dude?"
I don't recall. I mean, I try to.
Maybe I was there with somebody else. I might have been there with my cousin Jason, but I remember Jobber Chamberlain having
out.
I remember Jobber Chamberlain having a long toss in the outfield, and again, like it's all little kids, like, "Oh, ball." It's dude, it's like the seagulls in fucking Finding Nemo. Mine. Every little kid can't get a ball, and I understand that, but Jobber Chamberlain literally went like this with the ball, like he's throwing it up to the stands, and then like just kind of blindly tossed it to the side back to whoever he was having to catch with. It's like, you're a dick, dude. Like, if I had a hot dog in my hand, I'd probably fucking huck it at you right now.
Talking about little kids, the Yankees call up their minor leaguers.
Yeah, we got off on a tangent. I apologize, Nick.
No, it's all good. Nuts. We got 5 minutes to talk about it. We're going to do it. The Yankees call up Jason Dominguez and Austin Wells. They both proceed to get hits in their first at-bats against Justin Verlander. Dominguez is being a home run off of opposite field. Dominguez being a switch hitter, which is very important for the Yankees because they are very short on left-handed bats. So he's batting for both sides of the field, and the Yankees have a strong history of switch hitting center fielders going back to Mickey Mantle and then Bernie Williams, and now we're looking at Jason Dominguez. If he sticks around in center field, there's conversation that he might move to left at some point. But point being, Jason Dominguez hits a home run on Friday. The Yankees win the game. He hits another home run on Sunday. Yankees win the game. And then he hits a home run yesterday. 3 out of his first 5 games as a professional, the man hit a home run. He's batting 290 something right now, 292 or something like that. 0 for 3 tonight. The Yankees are getting shellacked by the Detroit Tigers. 8-3 right now. And Carlos Rodon pitched, which his name should be Rodon. He even spells it with the accent over the O. Why he pronounces it Rodon, I don't know, but such is life. Carlos Rodon at lasting 3.2 innings, so 3 and 2/3, 8 hits, 7 runs, 7 earned. But the Yankees, in other news, are 6.5 games out of the wild card, which is it's kind of nothing to be impressed by because everybody makes the wild card these days. There's like 30 wild cards and 3 division winners, so it's not really much of a conversation. They're 18 games out of first place, but as I previously said, 6.5 games out of a wild card as of tonight. Toronto has been losing games. Texas, what a plummet. They went from being the division leader to now not even in the wild card conversation. They're out of the wild card right now. And you know what? I want to say it's because of Rangers fans' hubris. Overly confident, talking a lot of shit, and now their team's not making the playoffs at this point.
Tell me that skid doesn't remind you of the Mets.
It does. Mets collapsed 2007 September. They had like 11-game lead in the NL
like
East.
This, bro. The whole time like this, running the mouth, and then just fucking porta potty. That's all it was. Not even a toilet. They were right in the porta potty, an unclean porta potty at a construction site.
After Taco Tuesday.
Oh fuck yeah, that taco truck is there every day. Every day's Taco Tuesday on that site. That's where the Mets were.
The Mets had a 7-game lead in their division on September 12th. All right. And they had they lost 12 of their last 17 games and missed the postseason in 2007. And you'll wonder, why does he remember this? I was in basic training and advanced individual training at the time. And I remember reading the cover of USA Today right before I left Fort Gordon, Georgia. And it's saying, Mets have, a 7-game lead in September because I left September 5th. And by the end of the month, the Mets didn't make the playoffs. My uncle's a Met fan. I'm a Yankee fan. And it was a funny conversation, at least on my end.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, you're right. The Texas Rangers were up by a lot. They were up by about 5 games at the All-Star break.
Listen, it's a bad fall from grace. Texas is doing good. But I think as far as the Yankees see, Yankees point 6.5 games out. I think it's too little, too late. That sweep of Houston was nice, but where is that all year? You know what I mean? It's just you bring up youth and you get a little bit of heart, right? Because they actually give a shit. And I think that's what this team is missing. People that actually give a shit. And until some heads start to roll, starting at the top with Cashman and Boone, it's just nobody's really afraid of losing their job because who cares? The Yankees make money.
Before we get going, last thing I'll say is you're right. I think that the 2 things. One, Cashman apparently was against bringing up the young guys, according to Michael Kay, and this is what I heard through the rumors, that Michael Kay said that Cashman was against it, but Hal is the one that made the executive decision to bring up both Dominguez, Pereira, and Wells, and they're all now up. And then lastly, the other conversation was congratulations, Giancarlo Stanton hit his 400th home run the other day. Doesn't mean really much anything to the Yankees because where was that all season? But
yeah, but good for him.
Congratulations to him. Good for him. But that's all we got.
I have 0 home runs in the MLB, so
yeah, we were a little late tonight, and we'll catch you again next week, and we'll see you. Thank you.